he was evacuated from the canyon fire yesterday. We wish he and his family well. I don't believe he had any damage. I think good. So with that, Madam Clerk will do the roll call.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Assistant Secretary Robert Uten.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Vice President James Fireman.
Present.
And President Michael Schaefer.
Here. Thank you. Public comments. This is the time where members of the public may speak on items not on our agenda. Do we have anyone from the public? Seeing no real public out there, we'll move right to our items of study. Don't. We have you two captive. We don't need to go.
We'll start with our code enforcement report. Yeah, we'll take the podium and go forward.
Yes, sir, Mr. Schaefer. Good morning. Ed Roberts, the District Code Enforcement Officer, presenting the Code Enforcement Officer report for September 2017 to the board. Good morning, Mr. Schaefer, members of the board. For the month of September, I initiated 6 proactive scavenging investigations. For the benefit of the board, I've included in the report some overview shots of the various map locations, brief narrative on each contact and incident that resulted in the resulting narrative. Does the board have any questions from the scavenging report?
Questions for Ed?
Is there any concurring people that are continually doing that?
Yes, sir. We've actually had some, I've had some contacts with folks that are reoffending violators. Most of the folks that I'm coming in contact, as I've explained in past presentations to the board, are indigent in nature, possibly afflicted with some sort of mental condition as well, that puts them in that position where they're scavenging. I don't issue citations to folks. It's on a case-by-case basis, seeing if there's really truly any necessity for punitive measures such as a citation that we can get through with a verbal admonishment, or I'll just see them again in the future, and we'll deal with it then again. Based on my experience in law enforcement, especially with folks with a mental disability or mental condition, I think it would be counterproductive to take any form of enforcement measure with them beyond rectifying the problem right there at the scene of the investigation. And as you can see by most of my narratives, what I require of the individual is that they be cognizant that there's a violation, they understand our position, that they know that there's enforcement taking place, and that they put all the recyclable material back in a nearby cart, still assuring our tonnage, continuous business as normal. Based on, citation issuance and all that, there's going to be tracking costs associated with it. The fact that I may have to present myself and set up a courtroom or at least schedule some sort of hearing for the individual. And by the virtue that these folks are transient in nature, the high likelihood they probably won't show up anyway. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I had a question. Do you give so many warnings, like say 1 or 2, and then you take notice?
Yes, ma'am. The way the process works, for example, a homeowner that's in violation, a lot easier to track and a lot easier for us to associate some sort of punitive measure with the homeowner because we can track the person down. Obviously, that's not the goal. We do strive for voluntary compliance here. For example, the notice violation process with us is very simple. You're issued a yellow tag, which is your initial notice of violation. You're issued a red tag for a subsequent violation, which is your final notice of violation. And then there could be a resulting citation issued to the property owner who can associate property with it. Most of the time, as the board has encouraged and clarified the policy, we do strive for that voluntary compliance. And as I said, I was taught a long time ago to get out of the car, knock on that door, make contact with that property owner, and try to have as positive a contact as I can with them, just explaining both their positions and maybe hearing out what their story is. And I do come across situations where that would be a handicapped individual and an elderly individual where just based on their life circumstances, complying with our requirements are difficult. That's where we have to find out-of-the-box thinking like me helping them out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we come across. With the scavengers, they just, I've seen my repeat offenders. And I just make it a point to make our presence aware, and they know what we're up to. And so I'll just pull the car up and go, hey folks,
Yeah.
take everything out, put it back in the trash cart, and I think we will all walk away. It's a successful contact that way. For the benefit of the board, I did.
We have one other question.
I'm sorry, sure, please.
Have you noticed the movement of the homeless to certain areas away from Costa Mesa Park or Lions Park?
You know what, sir? I do control the city in its entirety. The gravitants are certainly going to be the chair. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying this without putting a little bit more thought into it. There's a concentration of our indigent population in the parks, in all the avenues and main corridors in the city, i.e. 19th Street, Harbor Boulevard. There is a disproportionate concentration that I've observed in the west end of Costa Mesa, probably towards the south end. With the advent of Lions Park construction and all that, most of the folks have been pushed out of that primary park location where they've concentrated out into the surrounding communities. Speaking just from my experience, most of the scavenging activity, most of the activity related directly to my purview is going to be west end all along the park corridors. So,
Are you talking about at the end of 19th Street?
yes, sir. Yeah, at the end of the terminus of 19th Street on the west end, up against the park, and then of course Fairview Park. That area, you do find folks coming out into the community that way. East side, as you can see in the map, you'll see the concentration as usual, or as atypical as most likely on the west end. On occasion, folks will migrate into the east end of town, and so we'll catch them there as well.
I'm still curious, they're not taking them to Orange Coast, the scavengers aren't going to Orange Coast College to redeem their, the closest thing, I think I talked to you, there used to be one at Fairview and MacArthur, behind the McDonald's there, there used to be a recycling bin, but where are these folks taking this stuff?
Well, sir, I've actually asked those questions. There's kind of an underground economy that functions, and it's kind of they're trading these commodities for whatever items that they're using, and folks will collect them. There are collectors that come in, and for lack of a better term, there's a mothership that ends up showing up in town that actually collects from the various individual folks, and they do it for profit, whereas these folks are dispensing food and alcohol.
So instead of getting 10 cents a can, they're getting 3 or 4 cents a can.
There's profit to be made in every avenue of it, sir. And you'd be very surprised at how it operates, because it's actually quite an organized effort that I've seen or heard about. Because I've got a lot of folks that I keep it friendly with, and once they build that level of trust, they'll start disclosing how it really works. And a lot of the stuff takes place outside of our city or outside of our control. It'll be in county unincorporated areas. It'll be out in Santa Ana.
I guess that's a whole other issue for a study session eventually, but I don't, that's got to be so in the ether, so to speak, that we'll never
It's actually, sir, with the scavenger patrol, I mean, quite frankly, all the trash cans are concentrated in one sector of the city on any given day. So it's not a citywide problem on that Monday, for example. It's our carts are out in one portion of town. And by being out there at 0700 early morning when folks are starting to put the trash carts out there, it's not that hard to take a peek down along Avenue and see who's on a bike or with a shopping cart or a stroller. So I think our effort is probably about as effective as it's going to get. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to give myself kudos, but I mean, truly the board and the staff we're doing what we can do.
Yeah.
So that pretty much concludes my scavenging report. Do any other members of the board have any questions? All right. And second component of the presentation, is going to be the trash cart portion. And for the month of September, there were 97 individual properties that received contact notices. The trash carts is a real quick fix, remedy. Most folks will go along with the program, or at least do their best to comply, whether they minimize it. Letter of the law says cart needs to be out of the public view. Some folks take it very literal. The spirit of the law is if the folks are doing their best to minimize it and reduce it from public view without it being a nuisance to the community at large, I'm pretty happy with that. I have nothing of note to report regarding the trash carts for the month of September.
Good.
Any questions regarding that?
Questions, Fred?
Yeah, and one more item, sir, if I may. Scott asked me to make an additional, to just bring something to your attention. CR&R brought a complaint to staff's attention regarding illegal dumping by a resident. Apparently a resident or someone put some pressurized containers of motor oil. And when I say pressurized, probably just sealed with a bit of vapor that built up. The carts were hauled, the compaction took place, and then, for lack of a better term, kind of an explosion took place within the thing, spilling oil within the car out onto the roadway. And so Scott asked me to look into it, which I did. And this occurred over in the Mission Mendoza area. For record, I won't put out the address where it took place. I did make contact with the violating party or the party whose car it corresponded to. I think folks are just savvy enough to not admit
Was the guy with oil on his hands?
Yeah. I did what I could. And that's the situation. You know, it doesn't rise to the level of a crime or anything like that, but it's certainly an issue for CR&R and us as the district. So I just reiterated policy to the customer or to the client, and I also advised them that I would be out there doing quality checks of the trash cart, making sure that no one's dumping other material.
You said the Mission Mendoza is a single family, or was
It was a single family, sir. Yeah, it was actually the neighborhood that's adjacent to the Mission Mendoza area.
Yeah.
Right, I believe they call it Mesa Del Mar.
Yeah,
So that sounds like, Mesa Del Mar. So the resident was contacted, there was a denial. Fine. I just told them we will go through the trash carts to make sure that no one else is dumping motor oil within their trash carts, and he was advised to repercussions at that point. So other than that, I don't know, and I haven't seen any reoccurrence of it, so I'm hoping we don't have to deal with that for a while. All right.
Maybe we could just do a reminder in a newsletter whenever we have one that says, caution, and then say, what should not be in, that kind of,
And give them some alternatives.
Yes.
There are plenty of alternatives, plenty of places that will take the oil.
Well, and I think once we start the household hazardous waste
Door to
collection
door.
for everybody, that'll
yeah,
help.
yeah.
It'll never solve it. I mean, it's much easier to put it in the trash can than it is to call someone to come pick it
Do it
up.
right there.
You know what I mean? But
that's-
I think that'll
yeah.
mitigate a lot.
Yeah, I think that by the time the next newsletter comes out, that we probably will have finished our negotiations with CR&R and present it for board adoption, and then we'll be able to do the door-to-door household waste, and everyone will qualify for 3 a year.
Will
But
that
still-
will that be at this upcoming board meeting for adoption?
I don't think so. I,
wonder why not.
because I'm not in the know. I don't know.
Yeah, could you, when Scott comes back, can you ask him if it's ready to go?
Sure.
I'd like to get the program started since we could have.
But still, redundant is good,
Pardon?
to do both newsletter and
Sure.
keep this going.
Right.
Just so
That's a
they
great new
remember,
That's a
but
great
not
new
always
program
this,
for
but
us.
we still have this.
But I think one of the things that they're doing with the next newsletter is that it will be the bilingual.
Yes.
And so I think that through the outreach of coupled
Yeah.
with the household hazardous waste and bilingual, then I think we'll see a better coverage.
You started working on the newsletter for the next one? 'Cause the new one just came out.
Yes. We're still waiting because usually they give us a questionnaire that we start with, so I haven't gotten that yet. But soon.
I mean, who gives you that question?
Eco Partners, our consultant.
I think the household hazardous waste program won't make any impact on this process because it's generally for seniors. And
No,
seniors-
in the negotiations we're having with CR&R, it will be, everyone will be entitled to household hazardous waste 3 times a year up to a certain tonnage of gallons. So, sorry, tonnage.
I think that came
Am
up.
I excused to go?
But I think that whole process came up in a meeting the director had missed. So.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But we need to catch you up. We apologize.
Yeah. We're very excited. We feel that this will be a huge benefit to the district and really help our,
And the citizens of
Yes.
Costa Mesa. It's going to be great.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. As always, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
job.
Chair, members of the board.
Good job.
Thank you.
Item 2, Tri-State Seminar for Water and Wastewater Professionals.
So we have a couple of guests.
It's a report. Is this, Steve, is this your?
Me and Brandon will be presenting those.
Before you guys start, congratulations on the snappy dress. I know why you guys do that this month, and thank you for participating in that. Brandon looks a lot better than you do, Steve. So, go ahead, Steve.
All right.
Brandon, go over stuff.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to congratulate, I don't know if your board is aware, Brandon passed his grade 3 collections 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So his next is grade 4, which is the highest grade. So
Steve's a grade 4.
All right. Well, me and Brandon are here today to talk about our trip we did last week of September. It was Tri-State Seminar. What is Tri-State? It's the largest seminar on the West Coast. It's held annually, and the attendees are not just from the 3 states, California, Arizona, Nevada, but we also see people from Utah, Wyoming, all the other states too. It's very large. So the seminar covers many aspects from collection systems to security, from terrorism, distribution, treatment. It covers everything regarding water. For our certificates, having a grade 1 to 4, we need contact hours every 2 years, so we attend these. So when we attend this, I learn from other agencies, from other states, what they implement in their programs, day-to-day basis. So just a little history of Tri-State. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Tri-State. But in 1985, there was a meeting between Arizona Water and Pollution and the Colorado River Basin section, and they met in Yuma to discuss a plan for developing a training seminar for the 3 states for the operators. So that same year, 1985, they held the first seminar in Bullhead, Arizona, and with 120 people attending. And over the years, for like 20 years, it stayed in Laughlin at the different hotels. It started getting bigger each year. Then they had to move it to Primm State Line because it was getting large, so it was there for a while. And in 2013, they finally moved it to Las Vegas because last year's attendance was almost 3,000. And they kind of mentioned in the seminar they might be moving to a larger hotel for next year in Vegas.
At least you're at a Primm, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. So the program, throughout the week, there's about 100 plus classes one can attend because it covers all the fields of water, treatment, distribution, backflow, stormwater. Also at the seminar, you can do workshops. Actually, I did my PACP license last year at Tri-State. But they also offer workshops for labs, training, and other stuff. Also, they offer tours through the program. And this year they had a tour of the Venetian Hotel with the recycling program they have. And the one that me and Brandon got to go on this year was the tour of Hoover Dam to check out their wastewater plant. And I didn't know they had one there. But unfortunately, we didn't get the tour because, keep in mind, Hoover Dam was built in the 30s. So the elevators are from the 30s, and they were out of service. That's their next big rehab project is to rehab all their elevators. So we didn't get to go down in the dam.
Really?
And check out the underground stuff. So we were kind of bummed.
Yeah.
Then after the classes end in the day around 4 o'clock. That's when they open the exhibition hall, and they have over 300 vendors from pre-treatment stuff to small tools to large equipment, combination trucks, CCTV camera. It's a large venue, so you can see everything on those days.
One of the classes we were taking was how do I hear sewer, and they give examples of different ideas and brainstorming and stuff on that. And one of them was out of sight, out of mind, underground sewer systems. They don't let us know of any problems until it's too late. We dread these times. Sanitary sewer system overflows are not fun for us. They need to be quick responded to, and protecting waterways by covering storm drains, clearing the obstruction, cleanup, and possibility of fines and bad local press for the district, where there's some of the issues that you go through. In 2013, the wastewater collection system of the U.S. received a grade of D, largely due to the failing infrastructure of an older system. Due to its age, pipe and joints are reaching the end of their life and starting to fail. It has been estimated it will take more than $3 billion to repair the failing system. Researchers state that SSOs occur 80% of the time outside of normal working hours. Why is that? Possibility of low flows causing debris to back up behind roots and grease and obstructions. With improved technology today, there are many sources that can detect the problem before it happens. One of them is a system called Smart Cover, which the district actually utilizes, and they get a little seminar on that. Smart Cover, we currently have 12 units. Oh, there we go. Smart Cover, we currently have 12 units, 10 on our well wells for alarm redundancy for the pump stations, and 2 in different manholes for early alert for surcharge. The sensors can detect early stoppages by observing the graphs or being alerted by text messages or rising water. Our SCADA tech will view these stuff daily and the information that comes from the Smart Cover and observe if any changes or issues or low batteries in the sensors are needed. The structure of the class compared to the test will be similar to an EKG. By having an EKG done, one can early detect any issues with the heart. The Smart Cover essentially does the same thing by alerting us that the rise in the wastewater needs attention. As you can see from the graph, we can see if there's an uprise in the water level. If so, we'll address the issues. Root control was another class we had done. Roots are a headache for us, and we need always to stay on top of these. We handle roots by root cutting, and if the lines are infested with roots at every joint, we use root foam for these sections. When we cut the roots mechanically, they will become more aggressively and grow back. And a little thing on roots, once they enter the sewer system, they flourish, and they'll just thrive and they'll grow.
It's like pruning a tree. You prune it, it comes back bushy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And if left unattended, these roots can start to destroy pipe and cause overflows. We use a system and a company called Dukes and a pilot program that we put into play in 2015. If heavy roots are rooted in pipe or hot spots, you will be aware. Since then, we have televised, and the after effects and the roots were found to have dried. After hydrojetting, the dead roots were removed. From this pilot program, we have placed some of our lines on a root foam maintenance schedule. The treatments are good up to 2 to 3 years. And the root foam schedule, it's easily accessed for the whole district. It's in our P drive and stuff like that, so you can pull it up anytime. Problems with flushables have been a constant thing for all sewer systems throughout the nation, probably throughout the world. Flushable wipes will always be a constant problem for our wastewater systems. In the past, we have had many issues with our pumps getting ragged up at our stations. But due to upgrading our pumps and sending out letters in areas, we have issues not to dispose wipes throughout flushing helped immediately. Flushables were supposed to break down like toilet paper, but due to reinforcing fibers, the fibers won't break down, creating problems in our systems. It is the goal to remove flushable from the labels. That was one of the key points at one of the classes we took. They're petitioning different companies to remove that world because just the human eye will see flushable rather than non-flushable, and it'll be easily to flush.
I'm glad to hear that, Brandon, because I had issues with an elderly father-in-law before he passed away. I just lectured my own son this last weekend with his bed. I said, don't flush that.
Yeah.
Well, it says flushable. And if this industry could get to the manufacturers to get that word off there, it might change it some, but I'm glad to hear they're working on it.
It's an international problem.
Oh, it has to be.
And OCSD has done very well spearheading an effort from here and all the way up to having attorneys speak to Kimberly-Clark and other manufacturers. And we're not getting anywhere, but we're pounding on the door. So.
Well, you know who makes Equate, you know who sells Equate, don't you? Biggest retailer in the country. That's Walmart.
Okay.
So, unreal.
Yeah, it's a $1 million industry, so they don't want to change. Last year, a study was conducted at our yard with OCSD on wipes. OCSD had many different brands of wipes, dyed different colors, and the wipes were flushed from our toilets at different times. Back at OCSD, the majority of the wipes were found at their plant unchanged. One of the little demonstrations they did was folding or people just clumping it up, and it's still, no matter what, it won't break down in the sewer system. Here's some of the stuff that's being sold throughout, and these are all no good for the sewer system.
Did you guys get any samples of these?
No, we thought that was funny, so we could take pictures of those.
Brandon,
this-
or Steve, Arlene, had a question.
I had a question. When you're talking about the root system, that's an interesting one because part of it is like the parkways that belongs to the city, part of it is private that belongs to the people. Do you have any certain rules of the land that say, okay, we take over here, we don't do this, this is your fault, that kind of thing?
We do. We have obligated the property owner to be responsible for maintenance of the entire sewer lateral all the way to the main line, and including the connection to the main line. However, Newport Beach will take over ownership of the lower lateral, which is from the sidewalk to the main, as long as the person puts a clean out in there. So that we're in the majority by having the homeowner be responsible. But having Newport Beach next to us, and then in order to get a fee for a sewer fee, Santa Ana did the same thing. So we have two neighbors that have responsibility for part of the lateral, and that's not helping our position because we hear it all the time. But our policy is similar to most.
I think Huntington Beach also.
That's true. Huntington Beach will, but they're all limited in what they will and won't do. It's not carte blanche.
Thank you.
All right. I know the highlight of this week for me was going to Hoover Dam. I've never been there. It was just amazing to watch how they built it. It was crazy. But the reason why Hoover Dam was developed, from the 1880s to the 1900s, the rivers, like 1,400 miles from Colorado all the way down to Mexico. In the spring, the river continued to flood all the low-lying lands from the melting snow. And also the water rights between the 7 states was always an issue, people fighting over who gets what water. So in 1922, a rep from each state and the federal government met and created the Colorado River Compact. And that compact divided the river into an upper and lower basin. And the compact, it paved the way for the construction of many dams throughout the river. And at the Hoover Dam, they had kind of like a science project of a model. And just amazing, because it started from Colorado all the way down to Mexico. It showed all the different dams. It was just amazing. So in 1928, the Boulder Canyon Project Act was passed by Congress, and that started the process of building Hoover Dam. Originally, the dam was supposed to be built at Boulder Canyon, and that's where Boulder City was developed because they needed a city to house all the workers. There's thousands of workers. That's where Boulder City came from. What was amazing, the construction it began in 1931 and finished in 1935. 2 years ahead of schedule, way under budget, they said. So with the construction of the dam, the water now can be controlled. It can be stored in the different reservoirs along the way, and also provides hydroelectrical power. I was amazed how much power California uses from this too. Just some interesting facts. It is the highest dam on the west coast. I'm scared of heights. He's a little worse than me. So, that wall, we're like barely looking over. And
I take you across the bridge.
yeah, the end of the tour went to the bridge, and it's so much higher than. So he didn't go. I had to go. And I'm here. It was just amazing watching. But another thing was they poured concrete for 2 years consistently for all that cement. And they had to develop a way how to cool the concrete so it would cure properly. So they had to use 582 miles of pipe through the concrete. And also they constructed a refrigeration plant down there, so they had this big iceberg to cool for like 2 years. And I did not know Lake Mead was man-made, and that's the largest one it's the largest man-made lake. And while they were developing the dam, it took 6 years to fill Lake Mead. And another thing we were looking at was, I think it was 1986. You see from that picture on the left, how high it was. And then you look on the other side, the right side, that's how low the water is.
Pictures didn't do it
Yeah.
justice.
How was the water level? Was it up? Did
It's
you see the white ring? Is it still low?
It's still low.
It's
There's an island out there that you can still see. I guess it's usually was covered. But me and him took pictures, and along the side there's a spillway, and this thing was huge. So I think the last time the water went actually over the spillway is like 1983 or something. And down the spillway you can see the large pipe, and this was 50-foot diameter pipes on both sides where the water was go down to the bottom of the lake, which is amazing. And also how much power this conducts for the west coast. As you can see, we use 56% of the power.
Most of the part go to Las Vegas.
No, LA uses, Vegas only uses, I think, 12% of that 25%. Yeah. So that was the highlight of our tour.
I'm glad you got to go on the damn tour.
Yeah, we were bummed we didn't get to see the wastewater.
Yeah, the treatment plant.
Interesting fact was when they were building the dam, they had the outfall for the sewage towards the top, and just sewage coming out, and it wasn't pretty for the public to see, so that's why they brought it 25 feet below the flow line. And I just wanted to see the wastewater plant.
Did they tell you how many guys are actually encased in the dam?
They said it was a myth.
A myth, but
It's like supposedly like 4 or 5 guys that were.
Yeah.
They just let them die in the concrete.
They said over 100 people died during this construction, and they're not counting like 40 to 50 that died. They called it pneumonia, but when you see those pipes I was talking about, the 50-foot diameter pipes, they're working in there with trucks running and everything. They all got asphyxiated. They call it pneumonia, so the construction company didn't have to pay out for, they kind of covered it, covered it all up.
Okay, I got a couple questions about the smart covers. Do we need more than what we have right now? Is that on the game plan or not?
We actually use Mission now. Also, it's another company. They are cheaper than SmartCover. So we have one Mission unit in a sewer. It's on a sewer, right? Yeah, on 16. And I'm going to talk over with the crew to see if we need any other like hot spots that we have issues with. We have some trouble spots. We can maybe put a couple more in.
And my second question is, how often do we get a notification about the smart covers?
As soon as,
I mean, how many do we get per month, roughly?
how many,
Notices that we have a high level.
do we get?
How many high level calls?
I know we've had one that was on, just recently, when the Santa Ana Country Club was working on the laterals, and it was storming, and our smart cover down on the Indus line gave us notification, and that's when we went out there, and then Joe Lamone went on the Santa Ana Country Club property, and they were building a lateral, had an open pipe and a trench that was just being filled with stormwater. So that's a recent, we don't really need the smart covers for any other reason, except it's an extra notification. Our system is fine. It's not like we don't have enough capacity. It's just an extra notification, like a redundancy is why we do it.
So very few
Yeah, we
notifications.
get maybe about 2 a month, and we'll usually go check it out as soon as we get it, and we'll just clean the line just to be safe. It's usually roots.
You stole my question, but I'll forgive you. And this is a completely different subject matter, but remember that line problem we had north of the 405 in the sewer systems that I forget how we solved it, but was it some chemical or something we would?
We got a sewer from OCSD that had a huge offset joint, and we went in and rebuilt that line. So it might be that you're referring to.
I just wondered if it was problematic and redundant, or it happens on a regular basis now, or did we solve the problem?
We solved that problem. We, as I said, this is just an extra notification, and it's independent of our pump station power, meaning this is fed by satellite power. So
You lose extra, you lose power.
you lose power to the station, this thing still has power.
I was under the impression, though, that problem could become reoccurring and you have to go bore it out or whatever you do. I think we had a chain that went in and cleaned it out at one point.
Calcium.
We still have our calcium problems up in the Santa Rosa
Yeah.
area. We haven't gotten in there to fix that yet, but we have had some incidents, like you were speaking, Director Fairman, where we have to, like a hotspot, we have to go often enough to stop that from backing up.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out that these are movable, so they can move them to where they need. And the initial purchase of the smart cover is, while not cheap, for the little plastic thing, I think they're a couple $1,000. Yeah, about $3,000. The maintenance of them, is for the 12 of them, we pay over $20,000 to maintain the communication with them.
That's per year, right?
Yes. So these are, that part of it, is not the expensive part to buy it. It's to, be able to talk to them and have the whole system. So, if they need more, they'll obviously get more, but if they can move around what we have and we can maintain that $20,000 maintenance cost.
Can that Mission company has a lower cost, can they get the same?
Yeah, Mission it works on a float system. The smart coverage works on a pressure transducer, so it is a little cheaper. Mission, it'll just give us, if there's a rising water, it'll let us know. With smart cover, it'll give you the graphs. So
Peak flows, low
Yeah.
flows, it'll give you the exact measurement of the pipe.
Well, my other question would be, does Mission, can take over the smart covers for maintenance?
yes, El Toro Water District uses Mission now.
I mean,
Well,
can they use the smart covers? Because we have those.
Terry's wanting to know whether Mission Clay can take over the smart covers. I think the answer is no, because they have their own satellite network to bounce these signals off of.
But what staff may do is, as they break, which they do break occasionally, right, and need to be repaired or replaced,
Yeah.
then we may not replace them with that one and may move to a Mission, so that eventually the cost will either come down or it will be.
Sounds good.
Brandon, you mentioned $3 billion cost for something. I think you probably need to say $3 trillion.
$3 billion to redo the
sewer system?
Yeah, sewer system.
in the United
Yeah,
States.
it can't be that low. I mean, in other words.
That
Maybe
might have
that
been
was just
just,
California.
Yeah, maybe just for California or Southern California, maybe something like that, and maybe.
No, I mean, check your numbers, it's
Yeah.
huge, it's
Yeah.
a huge federal number.
Yeah.
And the sewers in Orange County have gotten a B grade in deference to the D grade for the
To the
federal.
national, great, yeah, there we go.
That's good.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations. Good job. Glad you were able to go. You know, if you need more information on the Hoover Dam, you know where they got the name Hoover Dam, don't you? Very good. But I was going to say, if you need more information about engineering or the opening ceremony when they opened the dam, Director Root was probably there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
He loves it. He uses me to stand up.
And Brandon, my wife also worked on the math part of all those technical manuals that you use to study.
Okay, yeah.
So if you need the answers, that's what we're going to.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good job. South Point, huh? It's not a bad. Did you go to Steak and Shake?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Good.
Real good prices.
Yeah, good spot. All right, organics.
Maybe Leah will be giving this report.
It's all yours, kid.
For the month of September, there was, we collected a total of 840.86 tons of organic waste. So again, we continue to see the increase for organic recycling. You guys have any questions?
You know, again, I think it's reflective of the summertime. We typically see, you know, when you look at, and I'm sure Dean could confirm that, you look at the numbers from March through probably the end of October this month, then we'll see that dip as lawns and other things start going down.
Dean says it's the Amazon approach.
The Amazon?
That everyone buys from Amazon. So he says everything that goes in the trash is from Amazon.
Oh.
Not the organics, but yeah, but not the organics, but it stands for everything is Amazon.
I know, that's a slow day.
We'll put that into the next report.
Dean, are you seeing less contamination in the green waste cars?
Personally, no.
They just do it.
I don't know.
The contamination rate in the
First of all,
organic part
you and I
is
were
very
there.
low.
Huh?
The contamination rate in the organic part is very low. It's less than 2%.
Oh, yeah, that's typical for all of
It's very, very low.
Okay, I got your personally though. Dean.
you.
I got that joke personally.
Any other questions on the organics? All right, let's go to the solid waste item 4. Who's got that one?
Nabila.
Nabila, you're up.
That one again, a total of 2,094.83 tons of solid waste were collected and recycled in September. And this month, we were unable to get OCC's numbers in time for when we publish the agenda, but they will be updated for next month.
Will you have it for the board meeting or next month?
Next month's study session.
So we're at 60, almost 61%.
It's just study. I believe last fiscal year's diversion rate was 61.
That's not including LCCs?
That's
This is
not
not
included
included.
OCC's for the month of September.
Okay. You know, on the commodities, something's still sticking in my mind. This thing that Ed talked about with these guys finding people, this underground.
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that. For some reason, that's just sort of sticking in my mind. I mean, you guys obviously know that exists, this underworld market or whatever it is, that where these scavengers pick up this stuff and how do we find how do we deal with those people?
Well, it's basically the homeless and scavengers who run that transportation.
I mean, these guys, I'm sure they're running around in trucks, and the homeless guys know where they're going to be. Probably they probably have Twitter accounts or something, for the home.
It's a network.
It's crazy. Because that really takes away from what we're trying to do here locally, you know? It's hurting us. Anyway. Any questions on the solid waste report for the beginning?
Is there a reason OCC didn't provide us with that information?
They just get their numbers from CRNR later in the month. And the last 2 months, our study session has been early in the first week where we have to finish all
Has
the
it
numbers.
increased at the recycling center at OCC or not?
We probably won't see the numbers until the next few months, later in the year probably. To
My
see if there's
next
an
week, the
increase.
traffic is up substantially.
That's what, we're going to get a bigger increase probably.
And we will probably see that increase later in the year.
Yeah, I think we'll see bigger numbers with the new facility.
Okay, that was my question. Okay.
All right, quarterly legislative update. I'm sure Gina will be handling that.
Yes. Good morning, members of the board.
Thank you, Jane.
We haven't made that known.
So you have before you the quarterly legislative analysis. And as you may know, October 15th is the last day for Governor Brown to sign or veto any laws that were passed by the legislature this session. Many of the bills that the district was following have passed and been chaptered, so I'll just give a brief overview of those bills. AB 979 streamlines the process for special districts to obtain representation on their local LAFCOs. AB 1309 allows the CalPERS Board of Administration to assess a fee of $200 per month to employers that fail to report members that are working during retirement.
So could you say that again?
Sure.
Is it working for the same agency during retirement, or for they could be pushing a broom at McDonald's?
No. Working for a public PERS agency.
Oh, it has to be a PERS agency.
We're required to report, we're required to check every employee, that we check their social security to see if they're previously a PERS or a teacher's retirement, STRS system. So we're required to do that and report them, that we're contracting with them or paying for them.
What if we had someone leave who became a consultant for another public agency, and if they're not collecting PERS or STRS, then we don't have to report it?
PERS considers them once an employee, always an employee. So there's a questionnaire we're required to hire, when we hire somebody, they're supposed to fill it out. And if you have a contractor and you know your contractor, then you've read their resume, and part of their resume will probably state that they have worked previously for a public agency, then that is considered once an employee, always an employee, and you're required to identify those people and stop them from working more than 960 hours.
Does this include board members?
No, it doesn't, because you're exempt from our PERS contract, and so we don't have to report you. But if, say, you retired from a school district and you went to work back to the school district would be required to report you if you're doing anything.
Okay, good. That's thanks for similar.
So the next one is AB 1572, and this extends the current CalRecycle review process for compliance with state diversion requirements. SB 96 sets some registration requirements for agencies that use contractors for public works projects. SB 448 establishes a process for dissolving special districts that are considered inactive. And SB 496 establishes indemnification provisions for public agencies and design professionals that they work with. And then I believe just yesterday, two of the other bills on our list had been signed by Governor Brown, and that's AB 1219 and AB 1223. AB 1219 would reduce the liabilities associated with donating food to charitable organizations and food banks. So it's an effort to reduce food waste. And
Rick, can you say that again?
sure. So it's AB 1219, and that reduces the liabilities associated with donating food to charitable organizations. And then staff is also monitoring a couple of other bills that have passed the legislature and haven't been signed by Governor Brown yet. So there's 3 different human resources related bills that establish provisions regarding discrimination. So AB 46 looks at wage discrimination. AB 569 looks at discrimination based on reproductive health. And then AB 1008 looks at discrimination based on job applicants' conviction history. And then also related to food waste is AB 954, which would provide education to consumers regarding expiration dates and quality dates on food products.
Gina?
Yes.
Could you go over the one that you said, I think it's AB 1219 maybe, that requires that something about food to organizations? That you
Yes.
Liability.
Yeah, the liability. So that one,
In other words, organizations could not give like canned food or something?
No, they
There
can be
was
held
some-
liable if they give them
Okay,
something that.
that's what I-
yeah, as long as it's, the language is fit for human
human
consumption,
Oh, okay.
then they're not liable for,
It can even be outdated food, if I remember correctly.
I
It can't
believe
be-
so.
In other words, I don't know if you shop at Pickens, Big Lots, but a lot of the stuff there, the date, if you look at it, the dates are expired. If they were to donate that to the second harvest, they can't be held liable
Oh, okay.
for anybody getting sick.
yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's a good question.
And then lastly, in that same category, there's SB 80, which would establish additional CEQA noticing requirements for projects that are considered categorically exempt. And then SB 229 establishes provisions regarding connections fees and capacity charges for accessory dwelling units. So we're keeping an eye on those to see if any of those get approved in the next couple days.
We're very fortunate that the last one that Gina just mentioned, it applies to cities, but it does not apply to districts. So we sent it over to Alan, take a look at it, haven't heard back, but that one could be important.
I thought it was the reverse. I thought the one that applied to the cities was already adopted, and that this one has not been adopted yet, but it applies to special districts.
Yeah, so SB 229 would extend the provisions to special districts.
Right. We had a customer that actually objected to paying our connection fees and cited the one that is applicable to cities. We verified it because some of the fees that we collect are not just ours, they're OCSD's. So we verified with OCSD because we were not aware of this legislation that had passed. And they said that it does affect connection fees, but not to special districts such as them and us, and referred us to legislature that is coming up and to keep an eye on it. So we are concerned with this because it would affect our capacity charges and OCSD's capacity charges.
Okay. So how many more days does he have until the 15th?
5 days.
With all the changes to CEQA, does it make sense for us to get a briefing in the next couple of months, sometime before the end of the year maybe, on changes that have affected our agency with CEQA? There's been a lot of movement with CEQA over the last 8 months or so, and if we could just get an update just on any CEQA things that are affecting our operations, I think that might be a good subject for a study session.
Okay, we'll pass it on to Scott to set up for a study session.
That's okay.
Generally speaking, we hang our hat on the exemptions.
Right.
Because we're not really building extra capacity. We're making replacements, repairs. When there's no new development that requires us to build a bigger sewer, that's the kind of thing that has to have. Now you get into negative declarations and EIRs and stuff, but for the most part, our projects are replacements or considered minor alterations.
But don't you think eventually that the folks that back CEQA so heavily are going to look at those negative decks and those exemptions and go, maybe we ought to change that? I mean, it could be forthcoming.
Right.
Well, it sounded like, to me, maybe Gina could clarify, but it sounded like that's what it was saying, is that if you have something that is an exempt and you use the word exempt, which most of ours are considered administrative and exempt, that they're asking for more information on the exempt administration ones. So maybe she could reread that part again, but that's the way I heard it, so I was slightly concerned because we all paste in the same exempt language into our reports.
Right. Yes, so they're going to require, if this is approved by Governor Brown, they're going to require a notice of determination for any exempt projects.
I just want to say I'm glad we're bringing up CEQA because truthfully, we brought it up before and we wanted to learn more about it and we never did. Somehow other things got in the way and so it wasn't that important. But I think it'd be great and I'm all for it.
Just an update.
Gina, could you repeat the last thing you said?
Sure. Let me read it from the report. So it's CEQA requires lead agencies on a project to prepare a negative declaration or an environmental impact report unless a project is exempt from CEQA currently. But this legislation would make it mandatory that the lead agency file a notice of determination for a project that is subject to categorical exemption.
It doesn't mean that they're going to eliminate the exemptions. It just means there's
They're
another
no.
criteria, another hoop to jump through.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that the board will recall the last time I think we did have a EIR and was when we adopted the organics program. That was an effect of CEQA and we did go through with so we haven't had anything I believe in quite a while.
Well, we actually were part of the EIR with OCSD on the west side of Vanderbilt.
Right.
So they were the lead agency, but we were part of the agency.
So we contributed to the EIR and everything for
Yes,
for
a lot
that.
of paperwork and
Yeah.
questionnaires and things like that.
Okay, so we'll let Scott know that it should be set up for a future study session.
That'd be great.
And by then we'll know if it was signed or not too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Okay. Any other questions for Gina on the legislative update? Thank you, very thorough, appreciate it. Item 6, we're going to continue, because that was Scott's presentation on the solar roof. And
Well, I'd just like to point out on that, he's entering into an agreement for $12,800 or something
study.
for a person to, ascertain what's the best way and to create the specs for the project.
Good. With all the new technologies and stuff, it's hard to keep up on that.
Yes.
Okay, Swana?
Good morning, President Schieffer and members of the board. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend Swanas WasteCon in Baltimore, Maryland. This year's conference was held in conjunction with the International Solid Waste Association's World Congress, which brought representatives from over 71 other countries. The combination of these two conferences allowed me to understand how our work here fits into the broader global challenges they're facing. I was able to attend a variety of education sessions which covered climate change, circular economy, closing dump sites, energy recovery, marine litter, resource management, smart technologies, waste management challenges, and more. Some of my key takeaways were municipalities across the United States and around the world are still trying to figure out how to keep recyclables out of landfills. When the CEO of Waste Management was asked if he could do anything differently, he stated that he would have implemented a better education program when recycling started. He said that years later, his own children don't know what is recyclable and what is not. Smart technologies were heavily featured throughout the conference. The emphasis was generally on innovation in the front-end collection operations such as GPS tracking, onboard computers, container sensors, and predictive fleet maintenance, as well as autonomous vehicles and robotics at MRFs. All this technology would mean a reduction in cost to both haulers and residents once the technology is implemented. And lastly, the importance of moving from a linear to a circular economy, and how important it is to our future for all products to be consumed, recovered, and reused. It is estimated that 11.4 billion worth of commodities are unrecovered in the United States annually.
How much?
11.4 billion.
You said billion.
Billion. Annually. Where our overall national diversion rate is at 31%, and only 22% of plastics are recovered. The creation of sustainable packaging is one of the missing pieces to help communities like ours reach our diversion goals. I learned our greatest sustainability challenge is global turbulence, when things like natural disasters, terrorism, crime, poverty, disease, and hunger are resolved, then it'll be a day that sustains the next. I now feel better prepared and informed to help reduce our ecological footprint. I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
First time to Baltimore?
Yes.
Cool town.
Very
Baltimore's really, you should get to the, forget the conference. You get to the north end where all the restaurants, all those.
That was where my hotel is. And that was only the safe area I saw. Everything else.
Part of Baltimore's. Now, did you make it to Babe Ruth's birthplace?
No. Everything else is really scary. I was by myself.
How many people attended? Was there a big crowd there?
Yes, it was over 2,500. And aside from other countries, EPA and the United Nations were also there.
Really?
So I had an opportunity to speak with them and find out resources they have that we might be able to use in our newsletter or link up to our website.
Very good.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did you feel that most of the people that were there were staff people?
Yes.
Yes.
Most of them are management analysts like myself, or people that are directly dealing with trash. A lot of municipalities across the United States do their own hauling or run their own works. So it's interesting to see their perspectives and what programs they've implemented, what technology they have. For organics, most of cities I found are taking it to be composed. So I didn't see any other AD facility or...
Well, some of us who had gone before to one of them found that it was really more staff-oriented than for us, for elected officials.
Yes.
So that's...
Yeah, I agree with Arlene. They tend to want to get to you guys, because you're the ones that prepare us to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And the vendor area probably had a lot of trucks and tractors and
It was
trucks.
overwhelming.
I remember going to one of those and it was like, holy cow.
It was overwhelming to see like trash trucks and systems for them because again, a lot of municipalities do their own hauling. It was interesting. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to go, and they learned a lot, and we do feel better prepared.
Well, I know all of us are glad you had the opportunity to go, and thank you for the report. Good job.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the people? Okay, then we'll go to our I&I report. I think, Rob, you're probably going to handle this.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. President and board members. So, quick background. Back in 2005, because of all the water, stormwater that goes in, that makes its way into the sewer system, drives OCSD crazy. And it gets into the sewer system in two forms, inflow and infiltration. Inflow is where streets flood and the water goes in manhole covers, in those holes and around the rims. That's what we have a lot of. Infiltration is where the water percolates into the ground and then goes into the sewer system. And we know we have inflow because we get the water right away. Right after a storm, we look at the numbers and our amount of pumping in each station is up. So we suffer a lot of inflow. Not much infiltration, but inflow. And in 2005, OCSD found that we had a lot of places where water got into the system. And they said that we were getting 2.2% of the rain that fell from the sky made it into the sewer system. So, and that was, we'll call it 10 years or so ago. So to update their model, OCSD has had flow monitors in their lines and in local lines. So for us, they have been monitoring for the last year their Fairview trunk, and they've even had some monitors in our lines to meter the flow. And they have not finished the project of pulling the meters and finalizing the report. And for the most part, the places where the monitors are not necessarily, where they were today were not necessarily where they were 10 years ago, except they have one in our service area. It's the exact same. It was the same before. It's the same now as what it was before, so we can compare that. So what was 2.2% of the rain that made it into the sewer system, for us, we're now down to 1.5%. So that shows that all our hard work made a difference. So that's actually excellent news. We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. We still have a lot of inflow that makes it into the system. But for the most part, we did a good job, and it looks like it paid off. So that's really the results of the report. They have not taken the meters out and finalized the report. This is preliminary information. The final information, the meters are going to be pulled out later this month, and then it'll probably take them till January, February to finalize the report. So that's where we stand, and glad to report some good news.
Even with the heavy rains, we have that big of an improvement. That's really good.
Yeah, we've done a lot of projects that prevent II, plus we've been doing manhole plugging and sealing.
Good. Any questions for Rob? Anybody? That's good. Okay. Any other comments? Just, you know, a week from tomorrow we'll have the State of the Union, but it's not going to be yet. State of the District. And Gina, everything looks good. I mean, I appreciate the work. I think the presentation. I'm going to check my schedule, but I may want to come over one day next week, do a quick run through, make sure I know that I look like I know what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Do we have an agenda?
Yeah.
Do we have a copy of that?
Yeah, if you get that agenda out to everybody, that would be really helpful. In fact, go ahead and send everybody the PowerPoint and the agenda if you can.
Yes.
And have everybody take a look at it so they know.
Was there an RSVP with it, or no?
No RCP.
Did anybody RSVP that they're coming? I mean, like, from the letters that we sent out to the
We
public
haven't
agencies,
received anything yet, no.
that wasn't on the letter to RSVP?
No.
So how are we going to set this? Are we going to set it up with like 100 chairs, or what's our?
It'll be classroom style, so.
It'll be what?
It'll be classroom style, so presentation
Facing
style
the
this way, facing the screen.
Do we have enough chairs?
We have 35 here, and then we're renting an additional 30.
Do you think that's enough?
Should be enough.
I don't know, because I think it could be pretty big.
The capacity in this room is 84,
Yeah.
so if we need to order more, we will.
I mean, I'm just thinking we should plan ahead, because you can't order them that night.
Right.
And I would get enough to accommodate our max. I mean, that's where because because all the literature I've seen has gone out to a lot of people. It's on Facebook, and there's a lot of, I think it'd be pretty good.
Hopefully we'll get a pretty good.
Just a thought, I would probably order your max so you can have good.
I'd suggest to make more when we take the diocese out.
We're not going to sit here. Are we sitting here for the?
No.
Okay, good.
No, we'll probably.
So you'll be up at the front, and we'll be in the audience. But these could be used by the public if they
Oh,
want
sure.
to sit
If
here.
anybody wants to sit here, they can sit here.
Would we be taking these tables out or using these also?
We'll be removing these tables.
Okay.
One of them will remain for the audio. The computer.
So are we having water or some?
We will have light refreshments, so that will be served.
Bob wants to know what's coming.
I was just pitching there on the table saying, no budget, no budget.
Did you bring some crab back from Maryland and snack on crab?
No, but I did get a chance to try it, so.
It'd be good for you.
Mr. President, is Director Gooden going to do any comedy routine?
No, not unless I pick on him.
Be prepared, Bob. Be prepared.
I'm not sure you could stop it, but I'm not going to be at the podium doing it. I'll just be.
Ask me my questions from the audience.
Speaking of questions, and we're not taking public comment during this. What I'm going to say to people is, if you have questions for us after we're done with the presentation, feel free to come up to any board member or any of the staff and ask questions. There's always that potential that we're going to have someone in the audience who wants to hijack the presentation. And I think this is more of an informational thing for our ratepayers and not a debate on anything. So that's,
Yeah, you're gonna need to avoid, if that does show us something ahead, we're gonna have to.
I'm just going to basically say, why don't we address that after the presentation so we don't disrupt the flow of what's going on.
How are you doing the tours? Are you just at random letting them go all over? Or-
No, staff will be present to usher groups at a time to walk them through and explain where everything is at.
Okay.
Are you going to have the doors propped open?
Yes.
And what about additional parking? Did we get the okay from next door?
Yes, we got the okay from Spectrum, but they are going to be open during that time. So we can use their parking lot, but it would be shared with their customers.
Are we going to have like a parking monitor say, hey, this lot's full, can you park over here? I mean, I was thinking,
Monitor or maybe a sign. Maybe
this
both.
lot is full, and then park at Spectrum. I mean,
Sure.
because, with us, just alone with the staff, we got lots of spots we're taking.
Right, we'll probably encourage, like we did at the other building, as staff is, the staff that's attending the meeting or people we know will ask them to park there first. And then that will leave the latecomers and the general public our parking lot.
What's our
So-
capacity of parking?
I think it's 40.
Yeah, so 40, and say we have 10, so that's only going to leave 30. We're going to need the Spectrum. Is there any other lot that we're thinking about, or just that?
We tried the nursing school across the street. They denied us because they have evening classes. So Gina reached out to
Here.
Spectrum.
Yeah, we're gonna-
We have 16 spots there that we could use.
Is that their total spots that they have?
16,
Yeah,
yes.
they probably don't have that much nighttime activity.
That's what they said. They close at 7 o'clock, but their night flow is really light, so
Next door?
next door.
So-
There's a few spots across the street that are cutout spots, so
Yeah.
that will also be available. Staff will probably park there.
One of the things that a couple of us have talked about, and it may be too late, but after attending the CSDA conference and actually after seeing what Ed this morning, if it's at all possible by next week, and I don't think it is there any chance we could get some kind of board shirt embroidered by next Wednesday? What we're talking about, something like what Art's wearing, or even a polo shirt like Ed
That
has.
has white shirts. and
They have
shirts
white
like
No,
shirts.
no white.
We're talking about black shirts
Yeah,
like
we're
Ed
talking
wears.
about black.
Like polo preferred or button up?
Let me get staff to get the book that we ordered from, and if you could pick out your sizes and your thing, we'll see what we can do. That's usually the stumbling part, is seeing who prefers what and what the size is.
Well,
So let me go get
Okay.
staff to do that, and then we'll see if we can rush order.
that'd be great. It would be kind of nice to have a
Unified look.
uniform appearance.
Sure.
Amazon would do it.
Travis and Matthew.
Are you going to do that now?
I get those
I'm gonna do that
$90
right now,
shirts
just
for
use-
$28.
Are we adjourned, sir?
Yeah, we can, if there's nothing else, anything else from them, we can adjourn and have Wendy do that.
Well, we have oral communications next. Are we on that now?
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about the portable restrooms.
Yeah.
Do we want to put it on the board for consideration that we would be involved with the portable restroom costs? Or is it too early to decide that?
Do we have, I know
We
Scott.
had a meeting yesterday.
Oh, was it yesterday? Okay, I wasn't sure of that.
And,
I didn't know. I knew you had a meeting, but I didn't know it was
and
yesterday.
then we have a meeting today with one of the vendors.
Okay.
So we got to get that stuff sorted out. We had a nice meeting. The city was there, the school district, Mesa Water.
Are they all for it?
By and large, I mean, the school district is probably the most reluctant because it's harder for them to create a nexus
Right.
of benefit, They can if they want to, but
Who was there from Mesa Water?
the general manager
In Atkinson.
and Atkinson.
Okay, 'cause
Well,
when we talked-
you could put the portable restrooms in a location to pull the homeless far from the school.
Yeah, and that's, as a pilot program, that's kind of what we were talking about, going that portable direction initially to see, how effective it is. But you're going to have attendance,
Right.
and, Scott put together a real good real nice presentation as far as cost and different types of restrooms and cities. Some city policies, like San Francisco, Miami, this is really happening across the United States big time. So, and not just the major cities, but I think, you know.
Jim, have they gone to the board, the people, so that?
We're not going to do that until we decide what direction we're going to go. Then we'll have a package to present to
Okay.
each board of
To see
directors.
if
Yeah.
I'm just thinking financially that, you know, everybody is willing to buy in.
Well, just from Scott's estimate was $93,000 for a year, I think.
For the whole group splitting?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Do we want, is it too early to talk about it that we're interested in participating?
So it's 93,000 for one?
For, let's see, five.
I think it was for one, if I read that right.
2 solar-powered mobile toilets with freshwater sink, $26,000. Restroom maintenance, $31,000. Paid attendant, $35,000. Miscellaneous stuff, $1,000. Adds up to $93,200.
It's pretty good.
So it's not going to break the bank, but you know we don't want. We don't need each other participation.
I know, but my position is we should take a stand that, hey, yes, we're interested in being part of the group. Yeah, you know, be part of the expense as a trial basis. I mean, that way it's going to tell the other groups that we're in already, for sure.
Let's look at it for a yearly contract as a test. Is that reasonable, a year? To see if it's going to work?
Miami's doing it for 6 months. 6 months seems to be the trial period, and then they've all extended it. You know, all the ones that I've read. But
I think Art's got a good point. I mean, we need to go.
But I think
we're
that,
willing
you know,
to do this.
you know, if after this meeting today, and then we go have one more meeting with the group, then at that point we cut it loose and
we wait a month then and wait till the next board meeting to put it on the agenda.
and it's really not going to happen during the holiday season, and so it's going to have to be like, you know, first of the year.
But I mean, I like the position of taking the stance. Yes, we're going to participate.
Yeah.
Because when I talked to Atkinson at Mesa Water, the CASA, or the CADA, he wasn't that interested. He said, you know, there have to be a lot of things that we have to talk about first. And he didn't seem that they were interested. That's why I was, you know, it's just going to be us and the city.
I think it's us in the city.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Did you say
And
the school
maybe
district?
somebody throw us a crumb here and there, but and we could get there's some grant money out there.
That's true.
Yeah, there's grant money.
Yeah.
Mr. President, is this something to place on the upcoming agenda for the board meeting?
Well, that's what we decided. Probably not yet.
Probably
because
not.
Jim has to
I think it's a little bit premature.
Too early.
Following month,
following month.
we could do that.
Maybe bring it up at this next study
Bring it up
session.
at the
Studies.
November study session. Just an update on the restrooms, Central Portal restrooms, whatever. And then if we need to, we can take it to the board from there.
When we had the presentation about the homeless at the end of 19th Street, I was telling Jim maybe that might be a good location to put one of those units because it's outside the most of the community, but it's still going to take care of the homeless that are in the, you know, the park in there. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think, I don't know who I said it to, but they talked about security and things like that. And there seems to be a proliferation at Lions Park. Put that portable restroom right near the fire station, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you've got some built-in security, kind of. But there's a number of places that end of 19th would be another good spot.
Yeah.
But that'll be up to the, you know, the committee.
Even at Vista Park at the end of Victoria would be a spot you could put it. If there's a lot of homeless that are congregating down.
When is the next liaison?
Yeah, that's true. That'd be good.
December?
Right?
Here's a few spots
Yes,
that
you're right.
Scott suggested. Myers at 19th Street, Senior Center, Anaheim at 18th, and Fordham and Wilson.
Those are good
There's that
Right by the
park, by the park.
Those are good places.
If you add on, add on maybe possible head of 19th Street, maybe to make your next decision.
Well, yeah, this is obviously just
But it was-
preliminary.
There's a lot of focus right there down at the top of the park.
No, I agree, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think we ought to consider talking to or inviting the public health people because of the hepatitis outbreaks in San Diego and LA. I think they're the people that have to deal with the sanitation end of it.
Yeah, This would help them out in Costa Mesa. We got units that
Are we done?
We,
Can I,
No.
I have one more thing,
but
I'll shut my big mouth. I'm supposed to attend this meeting with the vendor, and Scott was too, so he's not here. Should we have another board member?
Is the meeting today? My understanding is Scott will be back. I understood that he was just not here this morning. Do you know anything?
because I know we have an ad
I
hoc.
thought it was
meeting.
11:30.
We do have an ad hoc meeting. Would you like us to verify that he will be at your vendor meeting?
and at the ad hoc meeting too, probably.
And the ad hoc.
Okay, maybe we could go ahead and adjourn, look at some shirts.
Yeah, that's
and
fine, yeah.
text.
Is there an ad hoc meeting?
Today, too.
There is a two.
Meeting adjourned, Mr. President.
Meeting's adjourned.
I